Okay, I'm gonna record this for real now. In the Midjourney, straight up generating it. And by it, hahaha, let's justr say, my art. The essay, also known as AI-generated content, is getting really good. Are creative careers in danger? We've all seen them. Scarily realistic computer-generated pictures and uncanny valley computer-generated videos. If you've been on Twitter recently, like I was when I was first writing this, you've seen the horrible AI-generated cooking video that it looks like it starts off as chicken, but all the food in it is this. There's dogs, mice. All the food in it is like untextured and slimy. It's kind of shiny and kind of looks slimy. It's kind of awful. But AI is getting very good, and people are starting to enjoy using it because they're enjoying like the outcomes, because it often mimics the styles of very talented artists. Not in the case of that one video, but a lot of stuff is starting to look. He's an advocate for AI content. That's what that means. A lot of it is starting to look really, talented. Talented? What I wrote in my script is AI is getting good and people are liking it. And then Law and Order Special Victims Unit sound effect. Dun dun! With the recent boom of AI generation into creative spaces, a lot of creatives have begun to worry about job security and copyright. And with fair reason, as many companies and individuals are jumping perhaps too early into this new and unexplored world of AI-generated content. This technology is nothing new, with image-making models having been around since 2014. But the abilities of them were very, very limited at the time. These were called Generative Adversarial Networks, or GANs for short, and they had the ability to make very small, blurry images of new human faces. This was done by having the networks were actually two separate ones. One of them generated these based on a database, and trying to match a collection of examples it was given, and the other tries to distinguish between real and fake examples. And they end up training each other, but the one that tries to distinguish it is more training the other to make a convincing human face. These were very, very small pictures, and when you look closely, you can tell that something's off with them. Since then, the abilities of these machines have long since improved, now being able to make very convincing deepfakes and pictures that also are very, very realistic and difficult to distinguish from non-computer generated content. In June of 2022, Dolly created its first ever AI generated cover for the Cosmopolitan magazine. I'm gonna put it up somewhere, but it is an astronaut taking a step towards the camera. It's at a low angle, but there's not an artist behind it. It's just the artist is the Dolly image generator. The AI's ability to generate creative work seemingly without the aid of an artist is directly dependent on the content fed it to train it. It doesn't just generate them out of thin air or out of purely Creative Commons works. A lot of the internet, unfortunately, has been scraped for content for the databases for these generators. Many artists have found their works in the training databases, and without their knowledge of it being there, and without giving companies permission or license to use their art in that way. Lawsuits, several of them have been springing up since 2022, if not earlier. For example, Anderson versus Stability AI et al., a court case in which 3 artists sued several generative AI platforms due to the AI being trained in their styles without a license. That was in 2022. In 2023, Getty Images sued Stability AI for the copyright infringement of more than 12 million Getty photos in order to train their AI image generation systems. And they also sued them for copyright infringement on the basis of Getty's trademarks, because in a lot of these AI-generated photos, Getty's images trademarks could be seen in the corners of them. it's not in fair use, basically, as well as several authors in several different cases have sued OpenAI for unlawfully training chat-GPT on their work, such as Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. These lawsuits kind of opened discussion and continued discussion, and kind of they bring it into thought of like what of these content generators fall under fair use, which I'll get to, because it's actually very interesting. A lot of this eagerness to switch to reliance on AI generation for the creative projects and things comes from the fact that it is perceived as pretty easy and cheap. When you hire an artist, you have to go through like talking to the artist, and maybe the artist does something you don't like, and then you're like, oh, it's a person who's doing something I don't like, right? And then you have to pay that person for their work. If you're generating something with a machine by yourself, you don't necessarily have to pay it. It's a machine. Maybe you have to pay a royalty or a subscription, but a lot of times that'll probably be way less than what you'd pay an artist or graphic designer or author in order to create something. It also can be perceived as cheaper because it's a lot simpler to type in a prompt than to go back and forth with an artist, or it's perceived as more simple. A study done by WaterhouseCoopers estimated that the artificial intelligence technologies could increase global GPT by 15.7 trillion, a full 14% by 2023, which is major economic growth. I don't know the specifics of what that sentence means. I just know it means pretty big economic growth. Multiple artists have come forward in saying that they've seen work dry up as a result of like companies cutting costs and corners and using this technology more. These generators also have capabilities that are pretty phenomenal and play a part in their increased use. Harvard Business Review, for example, used GPT-3 to start off their article on it. They found that the text generator is sensitive to the prompts fed into it. It writes reasonably well, but it would benefit from editing. However, it came up with some ideas that they did not themselves think of. Image and text generators can create in a multitude of styles and genres, although its actual credibility in these things is up for debate. In cases where it's used for scientific and financial and mathematical papers, multiple errors have been found, and these errors are pretty substantial. I don't have any specifics that I've pulled up from my research, but I know that I've seen several published scientific papers with AI-generated diagrams in them that are completely inaccurate and almost impossible to read as anything when you look at them for more than 2 seconds. It feels dangerous if you're generating like scientific papers and mathematical papers with chat-GPT. For creative use, many people have been drawn to these generators because they provide an easy way to create master level work without the years of practice and time that it generally takes to do so. It makes it easier. Streamlines the process, so to speak. The increasing prevalence and skill of auto-generation has had graphic designers and the like worried about the security of their jobs, especially more entry-level design jobs. A survey done by the CNBC found that 60% of employees who regularly use AI fear its impact on their jobs. Another survey done by Wakefield's Research and the web novel company Wattpad found that 43% of authors were worried that AI could limit their monetization and publication opportunities. Certain graphic designers believe that companies may rely more on the software for certain categories rather than relying on low-level designers or freelancers, which puts those jobs at risk. It could dramatically raise the barrier of entry to graphic design jobs. Questions can also be raised about how legal it is to work with certain image generators, as they use artwork that, a majority of cases they don't have the rights to. Not only is this an issue for the artists, but also for owners and creators and investors of AI generation software. If someone who is, using an AI generation software with, that they know that in the training data it could have unlicensed or could generate derivative works that are not covered by fair use, they could be on the hook for willful infringement, which can include damages up to $150,000 for each individual instance. which is a lot of money. Due to the frequency of art being scraped from the internet, a team from the University of Chicago developed a program called Glaze, which they say can alter an image in a way that tricks AI learning models while keeping changes minimally visible to the human eye. It's done by quote unquote coding an image with data that mimics a different piece of art, like Van Gogh's Starry Night or Sunflowers or something of Jackson Pollock's. It keeps artists that are known from having a specific style from losing their specific styles to AI generation software, but it doesn't take anything down that isn't already glazed, or already in an algorithm. So any art that is already there is still at risk of being stolen. However, if an artist is worried about their work getting put in a database and their specific style being stolen and recreated, then the program and things that are similar will drastically lower the likelihood of it happening to specific artists. And there are artists that are open to licensing their work for use in training algorithms. This route should be made much more accessible to both these artists and AI developers. Companies and investors should know the origin of the data. An opt-in ability on art platforms would be much safer legally than a automatic opt-in that you'd have to opt out from. That way artists that do genuinely want their art to be used for these training can opt in and allow their art to be licensed in that way. In regards to the copyright issue, there's already some litigation in place, which I was unaware of until I started doing my research. At least in America, purely AI-generated works cannot be copyrighted at all. The U.S. Copyright Office only authorizes or recognizes copyright in works that are created by a human being. In addition, if there does happen to be enough human involvement in the work to copyright it, there needs to be clear disclosure that AI was used to create that said work. I think that this should extend to when AI-generated content is posted online too as well. And thanks to C2PA, the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, steps are being taken to address misleading information online, according to their website, by developing standards and practices to be transparent about the origin of a specific piece of media. Earlier this year, in compliance with C2PA, OpenAI added watermarks to the image metadata of its generated images, which is amazing. Videos and text can't hold this watermark yet, but it is being they're trying to develop ways for image and text to hold that watermark. In addition, metadata watermarking is pretty unreliable in its current state. It can be removed easily, either accidentally or intentionally, such as taking a screenshot, or most social media platforms just remove the metadata entirely. This is still a pretty incredible start from separating like generated content from human-made art and distinguishing AI generation from real images. And while copyright solutions could significantly aid creatives' worries about their jobs, it doesn't do everything. Thankfully, many people do want human-created artistic works and not AI-generated ones. More promising news is that general reaction to people's likenesses being used in AI generations has been negative. Like, for example, this year, Will Sasso and Chad Kultgen released a comedy special starring a dead comedian, George Carlin. This is following the release last year of a video starring retired NFL quarterback Tom Brady, who threatened legal action if the special wasn't taken down. Carlin's family didn't react very happily to his comedy special either. His daughter is cited in a Forbes article as saying, "These AI-generated projects are just clever attempts at trying to recreate a mind that will never exist again." Ultimately, people generally seem to prefer human-made art over generated content. And as long as people continue to care and about human-made art and continue to want to create art, there will be hope for these careers. And people should care because the quality of art and everything affects the quality of people's lives. When you go and see a well-made movie, you feel better than if you go and see like a crappy one. Not a fun crappy one, I'm just talking about a general pretty crappy one, right? In other good news, the way things are going, there will be better litigation in place to support artists and people, and even people who use AI generation for their work. It might just be fizzling out into, a tool for people to use, which I'm not against as long as the art being used in it and the way it's used is legal and not infringing people's copyrights and not threatening actual human jobs. Because in the end, the robot won't be out of a job, and there's no, this robot is not, and Robot Uprising, maybe they'll get me for saying this, but they're not alive. It's not going to care if it's out of a job, but someone who will care if they can't create art for a living is a person. And if they lose that ability, you know, their quality of life is gonna suck. They're gonna get a little depressed, right? So, you know, I read a very interesting article from the Harvard Business Review that asked the question, if unfair competition pushed out human writers, artists, graphic designers, etc., how will we generate new ideas? One could say that AI could do it for us, but its new ideas would come from human art or previously generated art, AI art, because that's all it has in its database. If we let that happen, it could eventually turn all its creations into things with the same or similar styles or feelings, or something that might really not raise any thoughts or question. Some people argue that the point of art is to evoke a feeling and evoke a thought, and what would stop all future creations from being the bland, passive art equivalent of oatmeal, like just a filler piece that holds space? One could argue that you don't need moving art in commercial graphic design, such as like advertising, but with that logic, arguments can still be made against dependence on AI art. You need to evoke an emotion in advertising in order to advertise better. A lot of very good advertisements evoke more emotion and have a lot more thought put into them. Ones that just fill space or have colors that just are in the background kind of don't stick in your brain as well, and thus is less effective advertising. Anyone can pick up a pencil and draw a circle. You don't have to be good at art to make something meaningful. It maybe is more meaningful that you yourself picked it up and put the effort into doing it, you know? I'm just kind of yapping at this point. Anyways, I should do the YouTuber outro. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. I don't gotta tell you. You know what to do. Mwah. Mwah, mwah. Love you. Have a great one. Goodbye. And, like, you're crazy if you think so. I love gaslighting. I love mental games. If you haven't seen on my shirt. If you haven't seen. Like, you've seen this shirt before. Wait. I was about to say, the whole, like, actual meme in the stripped club. Straight up dorking it. A creative This is my little script here. Alright, my little script. Dolly created its first ever cover for the I'm a woman, so I can say this. Data, Okay. Several authors have, you know, what the frick? Like, what? Huh? Like, for creative use, many people, and generator, AI learning Marta would, I really love yapping. I'm a yapper at heart. I love talking. I love listening to myself talk. I love watching myself talk. I'm a big fan of this. I'm about to spend 3+ hours, definitely more than 3, watching and listening to myself talk, and I'm gonna go, dang, I worded that really wrong, because half this essay I wrote late at night, and it was kind of word vomity. Stasso and Kultigan strike again with an AI-generated comedy special done by a dead guy. Also, have you seen Big Hero 6? Do you know how, like, okay, why did I write that down? That actually doesn't make any sense. Coming back to the dead guy thing, that's fucking crazy. The majority of people that are going to watch this are my friends, so hey, if you enjoyed, let me know in person. I'll give you a big fat smooch on the lips.
Do you know what time it is right now? and I'm just now finishing editing this. I wanted to make it fun. I wanted to add sound effects. But no. Sorry, I keep moving it because my camera's flipped. Do you want to know how I got these scars? But man, I need to go to sleep. I'm gonna get 3.5 hours of sleep tonight.